In the late 1800s, the Wild West was more than a dusty frontier. It was a world where justice was decided in seconds, and the quickest man with a gun could become a legend. Bandits, lawmen, gamblers, and hired killers roamed the same streets, each fighting for survival, money, or reputation. On these rough roads walked 10 of the deadliest gunfighters in American history. Men who carved their names into gun barrels, wanted posters, and courtroom stories. Some fought for justice. Some fought for profit. Others fought because the world gave them nothing but violence. This is their story. Imagine a man who arrested more than 3,000 criminals, survived countless gunfights, and became one of the most feared lawmen the Wild West had ever known. His name wasn't white, wasn't European, and wasn't even someone history wanted to remember. His name was Reeves, and many believe he was the real inspiration for the Lone Ranger. A man born as a slave who became one of the deadliest lawmen in Wild West history. But unlike the movies, Reeves wasn't fiction. He was real, deadly, relentless, and legendary. Reeves is born into slavery in 1830s America. He does not own his own life. He works the fields. He serves his master. But inside, the boy Bass is quietly watching. He watches how men ride. He watches how they shoot. He watches how they survive. The Civil War comes. Bass is taken to the battlefield as a servant. Cannons shake the ground. Men scream and fall. In the chaos of war, one truth becomes clear. If he ever wants to live free, he must take that freedom himself. One night, under a dark sky, Bass makes his choice. He runs, he rides into the unknown, away from the army, away from the life of a slave. Dogs bark in the distance. Men may follow, but he does not look back. If they catch him, he will die. So he keeps going. He escapes into Indian territory. This land is wild and dangerous. But here, Bass learns to survive in a new way. He lives among native tribes. He learns their languages. He studies the hills, rivers, and hidden paths. He becomes an expert tracker, a strong rider, and a deadly accurate shot. The slave has become a ghost in the wilderness. The war ends. Slavery is finished on paper, but in the West, there is still chaos. Indian territory is full of outlaws, men who think the law cannot reach them. The government needs someone who knows this land, someone who can ride into these dark places and bring criminals back. They find Reeves, now a free man. He is offered something he never had, a badge. Reeves becomes a U.S. deputy. Marshal. He is one of the first black lawmen in this deadly region. Many people doubt him. Some hate him just because of his skin. But when he puts that star on his chest, he makes a promise. He will never run again. Now, he will be the one men run from. Bass rides with quiet focus. He carries warrants with names on them. Every name is a real person, a dangerous one, through storms, through heat, through snow. He rides for days and sleeps under the open sky with his rifle close and his horse. Nearby, Bass uses tricks to catch his targets. Sometimes he dresses as a beggar, sometimes as a farmer, sometimes he walks into a cabin pretending to be harmless, then suddenly shows the badge and the gun. The outlaws learn his name. They hear that he has taken thousands of men to court. They hear that he has killed some in gunfights. They hear that when Reeves says, "I have a warrant," you only have two choices: surrender, or die trying to escape that. Reeves is strong and brave. He is one of the deadliest gunfighters in the West. But he is also a man with a heart that fails every choice. He hears mothers cry for sons who chose the outlaw life. He watches families break apart when he takes fathers to jail. Then comes the hardest moment of his life. The law points at his own home. His own son is accused of murder. Bass does not hide him. He does not protect him. He does what he has done with so many other men. He saddles his horse. He puts on his badge. He arrests his own son and brings him in. Imagine the weight of that ride. A father taking his child to face justice. A lawman refusing to bend the rules, even for blood. This is the price of his code. Years roll on. Reeves grows older, but he does not slow down much. He continues to hunt criminals across rough country, facing ambush and gunfire again and again. He is said to have arrested more than 3,000 men. Often, bullets fly past his hat and coat. But somehow, he keeps coming home. When his time as a marshal is over, Bass does not retire to an easy chair. He still works as a peace officer in a small town. Even without the wild rides, he keeps doing what he has always done: protect people who cannot protect themselves. Bass Reeves dies in the early 1900s. No big parade, no loud goodbye, just a quiet end to a loud life. Today, many believe he was one of the greatest lawmen in American history. Bass Reeves started his life in chains and ended it wearing a badge. He was poor, he was hunted, he was doubted, but through courage, skill, and an unbreakable sense of right and wrong, he became one of the most respected gunfighters of the Wild West. Now imagine a man from dentist to gambler. He walks into the saloon, thin as a ghost, pale as paper. A soft cough escapes his lips. Men at the tables look up, ready to laugh at the sick stranger. Then they see the gun at his hip. Then they see his eyes. This is Doc Holliday. He is dying, and that makes him more dangerous than any man in the room. Before the legend, before the gunfights, he is just John Henry Holliday. He grows up in Georgia, in the American South. He is not a cowboy. He is not an outlaw. He comes from a respected family. He wears clean clothes, speaks polite words, and goes to school. He studies hard and becomes a dentist. Dr. John Holliday, a man of medicine, a man who helps people. He sets up a practice. He has tools, a chair, and dreams of a calm life, maybe a family, maybe a future, but the future has other plans. One day, Doc starts coughing. At first, it is just a small cough. Then it grows deeper. There is blood in his handkerchief. A doctor gives him the truth. He has tuberculosis, a deadly lung disease. In that time, there is no cure, no real hope. The doctor tells him something chilling. If he stays in the humid air of the South, he will die faster. If he wants more time, he must move west, to the dry lands. Doc is still young, but now he feels old inside. The life he planned as a gentle dentist begins to fade. He travels west, chasing air he can breathe. Out there, towns are rough. People don't visit dentists very often, but they do visit saloon tables, where cards are dealt and money is lost in long nights. Doc has sharp eyes and a sharp mind. He learns he can make more money at a poker table than in a dentist chair. Slowly, the fine young doctor becomes Doc, the gambler. With gambling comes trouble. If someone thinks you cheated, they might reach for a gun. So Doc does too. He practices. He learns to draw fast. He trains his hands to be calm, even when his chest is burning with coughs. Soon, people are saying, "Don't cross Doc Holliday. He's sick." But his gun is healthy. Doc is a man of sharp contrasts. He is thin and often sweating from fever. But when danger comes, he stands straight and steady. He drinks a lot of alcohol to calm his pain. But when it is time to aim, his hands do not shake. He can be polite and charming. But if someone insults him or his friends, his anger is sudden and fierce. One night, he is just another gambler at the table. The next night, he is in the street facing a man with a pistol. Seconds away from death. In this life, Doc understands one thing very clearly. He's already dying, so fear has no power over him. In the West, paths cross in strange ways. Doc meets Wyatt Earp, a lawman who is tough, quiet, and driven by a strong sense of justice. They should not fit together, the sick gambler and the firm lawman, but they do. Wyatt sees something in Doc, loyalty and courage. Doc sees something in Wyatt, honor and backbone. They become friends, real friends, the kind that stand together when bullets start flying. When Wyatt needs help, Doc does not hesitate. He knows he could die any day from his illness. So if he must risk his life for someone, let it be for a man he respects. Tension grows in the town of Tombstone, Arizona. On one side, the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday. On the other, a group of cowboys, some of them dangerous men with guns and tempers. Threats are made. Insults are thrown. The town feels like a powder keg. Then comes the day that will echo through history. The walk to the OK Corral. Doc walks beside Wyatt and the others. Dust rises at their feet. People watch from windows, feeling the air shake with silent fear. Doc is coughing, but his eyes are cold and ready. He knows there is a good chance he will not walk back. Gunshots explode. Smoke covers the scene. Men shout, fall, bleed, in that blur of seconds. Doc stands and fires with deadly control. He fights not for glory, but for loyalty to protect the man he calls friend. When the gunfire stops, the ground is stained. Some men are dead. Doc Holliday is still standing. After the famous gunfight, Doc's name spreads like fire. Some call him a hero. Some call him a killer. Many call him both. But away from the crowds, Doc is just a man with weak lungs and a heavy soul. Nights are the hardest. When the saloons are quiet and the tables are empty, the pain in his chest returns. He coughs and coughs, feeling his life slipping out a little more with every breath. He hides it with jokes. He hides it with whiskey. He hides it with a cold, calm mask. Yet inside, Doc knows the truth. His time is almost over. Doc travels to Glenwood Springs, Colorado, searching for healing waters and better air. He is no longer the sharp, dangerous figure of Tombstone. He is thin, weak, and tired. He spends his last days in a bed, not in a gunfight, not in a dusty street, but in a small room, staring at his bare feet. Some stories say his last words were a surprise remark that he died in bed, not with his boots on. For a man who lived on the edge, it is almost a joke from fate. Doc Holliday's life is not a simple story of good or evil. He begins as a healer, and becomes a man who often hurts others. He is loyal and brave, but also angry and reckless. He is deadly with a gun, but helpless against the sickness in his lungs. The emotional truth is this: Doc Holliday is a man who knows he is dying from a young age, and that single fact shapes every choice he makes. He laughs louder, he drinks more, he gambles harder, he fights faster, because for Doc, tomorrow is never guaranteed. Image: a man, lawman, or also a gambler, a long coat, a hat pulled low, a gun at his side. People move out of his way. Some nod with respect. Some stare with hate. This is Wyatt Earp, not the movie version. The real man, a lawman who would not bend, even when it broke his life. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp is born in 1848 in a large frontier family. His father moves the family again and again, chasing new chances in new places. As a boy, Wyatt learns to work hard. He learns to drive wagons, handle horses, and live rough. He dreams of being a lawman, like his older brother Virgil. But his early life is not a straight path. He tries many jobs, hauling freight, working on farms, helping build railroads. Sometimes he works near the law. Sometimes he drifts close to trouble. The frontier is wild. The rules are loose. Wyatt is still searching for who he is. Young Wyatt falls in love. He marries a woman named Urilla and starts to build a quiet life. He finally thinks he has found peace. Then tragedy comes. His wife becomes sick and dies, likely from disease. Wyatt is crushed. His small dream of a calm family life is broken. After her death, he drifts. He drinks. He moves from town to town, working odd jobs. At one point, he is even arrested for problems with the law. But this dark time does not last forever. Wyatt begins to pull himself together. He remembers his old dream, to wear a badge, to stand for something. Slowly, he steps back toward the law. Wyatt's path takes him to the booming cattle towns of Kansas. Places like Wichita and Dodge City. These towns are loud and dangerous. Cowboys ride in after long drives, drunk and armed. Guns go off in the night. Knives flash under the saloon lamps. Wyatt becomes a law officer. He is not the fastest gun in the West. He is not the smoothest talker. But he is steady, calm, and not easily scared. When a fight breaks out, he walks in instead of running away. When a drunk man refuses to give up his gun, Wyatt takes it anyway. In Dodge City, he works with other tough men, some of whom will become famous too. Names like Bat Masterson. Together, they try to keep order in a place that wants to explode. Wyatt's reputation grows. He is strict. He is brave. He does not back down. By 1879, Wyatt is heading toward a new chance. The silver boom town of Tombstone, Arizona. He travels with his brothers, Virgil and Morgan, and with his partner, a strong woman named Mattie Blair. Later, another woman, Josephine Marcus, will also be part of his life and story. Tombstone is rich, noisy, and full of tension. Miners, gamblers, cowboys, ranchers, everyone wants money and power. On the edges of town, a group of men known as the Cowboys run cattle and sometimes run crime. Some are thieves, some are killers. When the ERP brothers take law jobs in or around Tombstone, they walk straight into the storm in Tombstone. Wyatt's path crosses again with his close friend from earlier days, Doc Holliday. Doc is sick, thin, and deadly with a gun. Wyatt is steady, strong, and focused. They are very different men, but their loyalty to each other is deep. Wyatt knows that when things get bad, Doc will stand by him, and Doc knows Wyatt will not leave him behind. Together with Virgil and Morgan, they form a small circle of men ready to face the Cowboys, if needed. Tension between the Earps and the Cowboys grows. Words are traded. Threats are made. Alcohol makes everything worse. On October 26, 1881, the conflict reaches a breaking point. Virgil Earp, as acting city marshal, decides to disarm some cowboys who are said to be carrying guns illegally in town. Wyatt, Morgan, and Doc Holliday go with him. They walk down Fremont Street, boots crunch in the dust. People watch from windows and doorways. Wyatt is calm on the outside, but inside he knows this could be the moment that changes everything. In a small lot near the OK Corral, the two groups face each other. Shouts orders to throw up hands. No one is willing to be the first to blink. Then gunfire erupts. The whole fight lasts less than half a minute. Men fall. Smoke fills the air. When it is over, some cowboys are dead. Others are wounded. Doc and the Earps are also hit or grazed. Wyatt Earp, however, walks away untouched. Some call it justice. Others call it murder. But for Wyatt, it is not glory. It is the start of a long, painful war. After the gunfight, the ERPs are put on trial. They are cleared legally, but their enemies remain soon. The Cowboys strike back. Virgil is shot in an ambush and badly wounded. Morgan is later attacked while playing billiards and dies from his wounds. For Wyatt, this is the breaking point. The law, in his eyes, is not doing enough. Courts are weak. Juries are scared. Witnesses lie or disappear. So he takes another path. Wyatt gathers a small group of men and goes on what many call the vendetta. He hunts down the men he believes are responsible for hurting his brothers. During this time, Wyatt becomes something different. Not just a lawman, but a man driven by revenge and grief. Some of the men he hunts die in gunfights. Stories later paint him as a cold avenger, a frontier angel of justice. Others see him as a killer acting outside the law. The truth is likely somewhere in between. After the chaos in Arizona, Wyatt moves again and again. He works in mining, gambling, and other businesses. He joins his partner Josephine and travels from boomtown to boomtown, always chasing the next break. He never fully escapes his past. His name is known. Some admire him, some hate him. Some tell wild stories, not all of them true. In his later years, Wyatt lives in California. He talks to writers and early movie people. He wants his story told in the right way, the way he sees it. He visits sets of silent Western films. Young actors, including a man who will become famous as a cowboy star, listen to him speak about the old days. Wyatt Earp, the old lawman, watches Hollywood build a dream around a life he actually lived. Wyatt Earp is not a simple hero. He is loyal to family and friends. He stands strong in dangerous towns. He wears the badge again and again. But he also makes mistakes. He lives with women in ways people whisper about. He bends rules when he thinks the system is unfair. He lets anger and sorrow drive his gun in the vendetta ride. The emotional truth is this: Wyatt Earp is a man trying to bring order to a world that does not want it. He believes in his own code more than in any written law, and that code costs him dearly in brothers lost, in peace never found, in a reputation always debated. Now the story of soldier, scout, tracker, and a hired gunman. He waits on a hill, alone with his rifle. Below, a man rides along a quiet road, not knowing he is being watched. The rifle lifts. The finger tightens. A life is about to end, and the man behind the gun is Tom Horn. To many, he is a heroic scout and a brave cowboy. To others, he is a cold paid killer. This is the true story of one of the deadliest gunmen of the Wild West, Tom. Horn is born in 1860 in Missouri, into a farm family with many children and not much money. From a young age, life is tough. He learns to work hard, handle animals, and live with pain. There is not much room for softness on the frontier. His home life is strict. His father is harsh and sometimes cruel. Tom feels alone, angry, and restless. As a teenager, he runs away from home. He does not leave a note. He just rides toward the west, chasing something he cannot name. Freedom, adventure, a new life. The west he rides into is dangerous. There are wars between the U.S. Army and Native American tribes. There are raids, ambushes, and battles in the open plains and mountains. Tom becomes a scout for the Army. He can track quietly, move fast, and read signs on the land. He learns to live with hunger, heat, and cold. He rides with famous officers. He joins in campaigns against the Apache and other tribes. To the Army, he is useful and brave. To many Native Americans, he is a threat, a man helping to push them off their land. In this world, Tom learns a deadly skill. He becomes very good with a rifle. He learns to shoot from far away, to wait patiently, to pull the trigger at the perfect second. His work is not clean. It is not pretty, but it makes him valuable. After his time as a scout, Tom moves into another shadowy job. He joins the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, a powerful private detective group. They investigate crimes, track criminals, and sometimes quietly remove problems. As a Pinkerton, Tom follows outlaws across long distances. He gathers information, he faces danger, and, sometimes, he uses his gun. But Tom is not the kind of man who enjoys rules and bosses for long. He leaves the agency. Soon, he finds another kind of worker kind that will make his name feared. In the West, rich cattle ranchers are in conflict with small farmers and sheep herders. Big cattlemen say, the small ranchers cut their fences, steal cattle, and ruin grazing land. The fights grow bitter. Threats turn to violence. The cattle barons want someone who can solve their problems, not in a courtroom. On the range. Tom Horn becomes a range detective. That title sounds official, but in simple words, it often means he is a hired gun. He is paid to find out who is causing trouble. He is also paid to make sure those people do not cause trouble again. Tom is quiet, distant, and professional. He does not brag. He does not show off. He simply does the job. People in the area start to whisper his name. When enemies of the cattle barons end up shot by a rifle from far away, some say Tom Horn did it. But proof is hard to find. He moves like a ghost. Tom Horn is not like loud, wild outlaws. He often dresses neatly. He speaks softly. He seems calm, even friendly, when he is not working. But inside, he is shaped by years of violence and survival. His heart is hard. To him, the world is simple. Some people pay him. Some people cross them. His job is to make the problem disappear. He tells himself it is just business. He tells himself that in a rough land, rough methods are needed. But whether he ever feels real guilt, no one truly knows. Then comes the event that will define his name forever. In 1901, in Wyoming, a 14-year-old boy named Willie Nickel is shot and killed near his family's home. The Nickel family has a history of conflict with big cattle interests. They are seen as trouble by some powerful men. Rumors begin, some people say. Tom Horn was hired to deal with the Nickel family. Some say he boasted while drunk that he got the boy by mistake, thinking he was the father. The story spreads that, while drinking, Tom tells a lawman how he set up an ambush and shot from long range. Later, that confession is used against him. But there are problems. Tom was drunk when he spoke. Some say his words were twisted. There is no clear witness to the shooting. No one saw him pull the trigger. Still, the public is angry. A child is dead. Someone must pay. Tom Horn is arrested and put on trial. In the courtroom, Tom sits calm, almost cold. The main evidence is that supposed confession and the hate many feel for his kind of work. Some believe he is guilty, a hired killer finally caught. Others believe he is a convenient scapegoat, a man with a bad reputation, easy to blame when the truth is messy. Witnesses speak. Lawyers argue. Outside, people talk about justice, revenge, and the blood of a boy in the end. The court finds Tom Horn guilty of murder. He is sentenced to hang. On the morning of his execution in 1903, Tom Horn faces death with the same cold control he showed in life. He dresses carefully. He walks to the gallows with steady steps. Some say he shows no fear. Some say he even makes small jokes before the trap drops. He speaks his last words. Different versions exist, but they share the same feeling. He dies without begging. The rope tightens. The man who once watched others through his rifle sight becomes the one others watch fall. Who was Tom Horn, really? A skilled scout, a brave rider, a loyal worker to the men who paid him. Also, a man who chose money over mercy. A man whose job was built on fear and blood. A man who may have killed a child, or may have been blamed because of who he was. The emotional truth is this. Tom Horn shows the dark side of the Wild West. Not the bright hero with a shining badge, but the quiet man in the distance, paid to pull the trigger so others could keep their own hands clean. Now the profile of a deadly and a dashing legend. The saloon door swings open. A tall, thin man steps inside. He does not shout. He does not smile. His eyes are quiet, cold, and a little sad. Some men in the room look away. Others whisper a single name under their breath. Ringo. This is Johnny Ringo, one of the most feared gunfighters of the Wild West. Smart, silent, deadly, and fighting a war, not only with others, but inside his own mind. Johnny Ringo is born in 1850, into a family that keeps moving west. As a child, he sees things no child should see. The Civil War is tearing America apart. Violence and fear sit at every table. People argue about who is right, but for a young boy like Johnny, there is only one clear truth. The world is dangerous. His family faces loss and hard times. The land is rough. The future is uncertain. Johnny grows up fast, with questions in his head and anger in his heart. He is not just some wild cowboy. He is intelligent, he reads, he thinks, but the world he lives in does not reward gentle minds. It rewards hard fists and quick guns. As a young man in Texas, Johnny gets pulled into a bloody local conflict known as the Mason County War, a violent feud over cattle, power, and pride. Sides are chosen. Lines are drawn. Shots are fired. Johnny Ringo joins one of the factions. Men are killed. Families are torn apart. What begins as a fight over stolen cattle turns into a chain of revenge. In this chaos, Johnny learns how to use a gun, not just as a tool, but as a decision. You pull the trigger. A man falls, and life moves on as if nothing happened. On the outside, he becomes known as a gunman. On the inside, every new death adds a stone to the pile of weight he carries. Ringo is different from loud outlaws who brag in the street. He is often calm and quiet. He dresses well. He speaks in a controlled voice. People say he is educated and can speak more than one language. He is smarter than most of the men sitting at the bar. He listens more than he talks. But when whiskey flows, something dark wakes up inside him. With a drink in his hand, he becomes unpredictable. His anger rises fast. His words turn sharp. His hand moves closer to the gun on his hip. Men in town learn a simple rule. A sober Johnny Ringo is dangerous. A drunk Johnny Ringo is worse. Ringo's trail leads to Arizona, where he becomes linked with the Cowboys, a loose group of riders and outlaws in Cochise County. Some are rustlers, some smugglers. Some just hot-headed cowboys who drink too much and shoot too fast. On the other side stand the ERP brothers and Doc Holliday, trying to bring law to Tombstone. Johnny Ringo was often seen as the sharp, serious face of the Cowboys, a man who can stand toe-to-toe with Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. For some, he is their answer to the ERP's gunman who is as quick with his mind as he is with his pistol. But Ringo is not just a villain in a black hat. He is a man standing on the wrong side of a broken line, in a world where right and wrong are constantly mixed. One day, Ringo stands in the street, drunk and angry, calling out the ERPs and Doc Holliday. He wants a fight. He wants to prove something. Maybe to them, maybe to himself. Doc Holliday, thin and sick, but always sharp, trades insults with him. The air feels electric. It almost turns into a deadly showdown, but the law steps in. The fight is delayed, but the tension stays. People whisper, what would have happened if Johnny, Ringo, and Doc Holliday had really faced each other in a gunfight? Maybe the answer is simple. One of them would die. The other would just carry more weight in his soul. As time passes, Johnny Ringo seems more and more tired. Tired of the drinking, tired of the feuds, tired of the violence that never truly solves anything. He spends long hours alone, riding in the hills, sitting under trees, staring into nothing. Witnesses later say he looks sad, lost, and deeply troubled. The Wild West loves to cheer for brave gunfighters, but it forgets that many of them are breaking inside. Johnny Ringo is one of those men, trapped between the reputation others gave him and the peace he can never seem to find. In July 1882, Johnny Ringo disappears into the mountains of Arizona. Days later, he is found sitting by a tree in a lonely spot in Turkey Creek Canyon. A bullet hole is in his head. His gun lies nearby. Did he shoot himself? Was it suicide after too many battles, too much drink, too many ghosts? Or did someone else find him out there, an enemy, a rival, a shadow from his past, and pull the trigger? No one knows for sure. Rumors grow. Some say Wyatt Earp or Doc Holliday might have done it. Others say Ringo was simply alone and chose to end his pain. The truth is buried with him in that quiet canyon. Johnny Ringo is remembered as a deadly gunfighter, a man other men feared. But under the hard stories, there is a different picture. A boy who saw violence early, a smart, thoughtful man in a world that valued quick hands more than deep minds, a soul that may have been too sensitive for the life he chose. He was not just a villain, he was not just a killer, he was a man who never found a safe place to set down his anger and his sadness. The Wild West turned his skills with a gun into a legend, but legends do not sleep. They haunt the hills and the stories long after the man is gone. Now the true story of Gunslinger stars. He sits at a poker table, long hair falling over his shoulders, eyes sharp as a hawk's, cards in one hand, a gun on his hip. Everyone in the room knows one thing. You do not cheat Wild Bill Hickok. To the world, he looks like the perfect Wild West hero. But behind the legend is a real man, with fear, mistakes, and a death he almost knew was coming. This is his true story. James Butler Hickok is born in 1837 in Illinois. He grows up on a farm in a big family that believes in strong values and hard work. As a boy, he learns to shoot, ride, and handle himself. His parents help people escaping slavery, so even in his young years, he sees danger and courage living side by side. He is tall, with a serious face and sharp eyes. But the quiet farm life is not enough for him. He wants more. More excitement, more challenge, more of the big, wild world. So when he gets the chance, he leaves home and heads toward the frontier. On the frontier, Hickok works many jobs. He is a wagon driver, a stagecoach guard, and sometimes a lawman. The land is rough, full of bandits, angry drunks, and sudden violence. In this rough world, Hickok proves he is not just another rider. He is quick with a gun. Very quick. One early fight that helps build his reputation is a deadly duel with a man named Dave Tutt. The two argue over money and pride. The conflict grows until one day they face each other in the town square. People watch from windows and doorways, hearts pounding. Hickok stands straight, long coat brushing his boots. Tutt stands across the way, hand near his gun. In a flash, both men fire. When the smoke clears, Dave Tutt falls dead. Wild Bill Hickok becomes a legend. The newspapers turn the story into something huge. They call him a deadly marksman, a perfect gunfighter. Whether the stories are fully true or not, one thing is certain. Hickok's name now scares people. As years pass, Wild Bill builds his image, whether on purpose or by nature. He wears his hair long. He dresses neatly, sometimes even in fancy clothes. He carries 2 pistols, often with the handles turned forward for a fast cross-draw. He can shoot with both hands. He can hit targets others miss. Stories say he can shoot a man at long range with a pistol. Some tales are likely stretched, but men believe them. And sometimes, belief is more powerful than truth. Wherever he goes, people stare. Some admire him. Some want to test him. He works as a lawman in places like Abilene, Kansas, where cattle trails bring in noisy cowboys and trouble follows close behind. As Marshal, he has to make hard choices. He breaks up fights. He knocks men down. Sometimes he has to kill. Each time he pulls the trigger, the legend grows. And so does the weight on his heart. Being a lawman in the Wild West is not glamorous. It is long nights, loud drunks, and the constant feeling that someone might try to shoot you in the back. One night in Abilene, Wild Bill chases some cowboys during a gunfight in the dark. In the confusion, he fires at a shadow he thinks is an enemy, but it is not. It is his own friend, Mike Williams, a man running to help him. The bullet kills Mike. This moment cuts deeply into Hickok's soul. The lawman, the hero, the sharp-eyed gunfighter, has killed someone he cared about. He never truly gets over it. After this, his days as a frontier marshal are mostly done. It is as if his spirit steps back from the job. He knows his reflexes, his aim, his judgment are not perfect. And in his line of work, one mistake is already too many. With his law days mostly behind him, Wild Bill spends more time as a gambler. He travels through western towns, playing cards, telling stories, and sometimes working with traveling shows that show off shooting skills and frontier tales. His eyesight begins to weaken as he gets older. For a man whose life depended on sharp vision, this is a dangerous change. Yet he keeps playing cards. He keeps wearing his guns. He keeps walking into saloons, where the room goes quiet when he enters. He is famous, almost too famous. Everybody knows Wild Bill, and that means there are always some men who want to say, "I was the one who killed him." In 1876, Hickok goes to the gold camp town of Deadwood, in the Black Hills. Deadwood is wild, full of miners, gamblers, thieves, and people chasing fast riches. Law is weak. Danger hides in every alley. Wild Bill comes to town looking for money, and maybe a fresh start. He spends time at the poker tables, where his reputation draws eyes and trouble. But in Deadwood, Hickok makes one small choice that may change his fate. He often sits with his back to the wall, so he can see the whole room. He knows too much about ambush. He knows someone might try something, but one day he cannot get his usual seat. Another player refuses to move. Hickok, tired of arguing, sits with his back to the door. For once, he cannot see what is coming. As Wild Bill plays cards, a man named Jack McCall walks into the saloon. Mick Call has a grudge, or maybe wants fame, or maybe just wants someone to blame for his own failures. Different stories exist about his reasons, but one truth is clear. He walks up behind Hickok, pulls a gun, and fires into the back of his head. Wild Bill collapses. The cards in his hand drift toward the floor. Later, those cards will be known as the dead man's hand. 2 black aces and 2 black eights. The great gunfighter, the man of so many face-to-face battles, is killed without a chance to draw. Not in a duel, not in a fair fight, but in a cheap shot from behind. Wild Bill Hickok is remembered as a symbol of the Wild West. Long hair, 2 guns, brave lawman, deadly shot, but the emotional truth is more complex. He was also a man shaken by the death of a friend he shot by mistake. A man getting older, with failing eyes, still trying to live like the legend people expected. A man who likely knew that his fame painted a target on his back. He did not die in the center of a heroic duel. He died in a chair, playing cards, trusting that, for once, it might be safe to sit with his back to the room. The Wild West did not care about perfect endings. Even its brightest legends could fall in the ugliest ways. Now the story of an outlaw turned into a lawyer starts. The saloon goes silent. A tall, dark-haired man steps through the door. His eyes are cold, his face calm. He looks more like a schoolteacher than a killer. But whispers spread across the room. That's John Wesley Hardin. They say he's killed more men than he can count. Some gunfighters wanted fame. Hardin wanted something else, to be left alone. But his own anger would not let that happen. This is the true story of one of the most feared gunmen in the Wild West, John Wesley. Hardin is born in 1853 in Texas. His father is a preacher and school. The family is religious. They teach their children about the Bible, about right and wrong. Young John is smart. He learns to read and write early. He studies his lessons. He knows about faith, law, and morals. But the world around him is not peaceful. Texas, after the Civil War, is full of chaos and hate. There is deep anger between North and South, between former slaves and former masters, between new laws and old grudges. Violence is common. Arguments turn into guns. Revenge feels normal. Into this world walks a boy with a quick mind and a quicker temper. Hardin gets into trouble early. At just a teenager, he is involved in fights and conflicts. One day, he gets into a deadly clash with another young man. Different stories exist about exactly what happened, but the result is clear. Hardin shoots and kills him. He is around 15 years old. In that moment, a line is crossed. He is no longer simply a preacher's son. He is now a killer. The law comes after him. He runs. This becomes a pattern. Anger, violence, escape. Hardin will claim later that he always killed in self-defense, that others forced his hand. Maybe sometimes that is true, but one fact remains: where he goes, death often follows. As he grows older, Hardin travels across Texas and beyond. He gambles, works as a cowboy, and drifts from town to town. He is almost never without a gun. His skill with a revolver becomes legendary. Some say he can draw and shoot faster than almost anyone. He practices, he stays alert. He expects danger at every turn, and maybe because he expects it, he often finds it. He gets into arguments over cards, over horses, over pride. He feels insulted easily. His temper is sharp, and his response is often deadly. Stories about him spread that he once shot a man for snoring too loud in a hotel. The story is likely exaggerated, but it adds to his dark image, that he killed men in Texas, in Kansas, and on the trail, that he shot a black soldier in a fight and then had to flee from soldiers hunting him. Hardin later claims he killed over 40 men. Some historians doubt that number, but even if the real number is smaller, it is still too many lives. With each killing, the law comes closer. Texas Rangers and other officers hunt him, but Hardin is clever. He uses fake names. He changes towns. He has friends and family who help hide him. But deep down, he knows he cannot run forever. He marries. He has children. There is a part of him that wants a normal life, a quiet home, a future without gunfire. Yet his past is never far behind. Every time he pulls his gun, he writes another line in the story that will one day trap him. Finally, in 1877, Hardin's running comes to an end. He is on a train in Florida, using a false name, when Texas Rangers and lawmen catch up with him. One of them is famous Ranger John B. Armstrong that move in Hardin. Reaches for his gun. A shot is fired. A bullet hits Hardin, not killing him, but stopping him. He is dragged off the train, arrested at last, for a man who said he was always faster. This time, he is not fast enough. Hardin is taken back to Texas. He faces trial for one of the murders. In court, all his charm and intelligence cannot erase the blood on his name. He is found guilty and given a long sentence, decades in prison. Prison is a shock. No horses, no open sky, no gun at his side. At first, he is angry, bitter, wild inside. But as the years pass, something begins to change. Hardin reads. He studies law. He studies the Bible again. He teaches other prisoners. For the first time since he was a boy, his mind is used more than his gun hand. He starts to write about his life, telling his side of the story. In his words, he is not a cold killer, but a man always forced to fight, trapped by a violent time. Maybe some of that is true. Maybe some is excuse. But in that gray cell, one thing is certain. He has a lot of time to think about the men who no longer have any time at all. After about 17 years in prison, Hardin is finally released in the 1890s. He is no longer the hot-headed teenage killer. He is a middle-aged man with lines on his face and regrets in his eyes. He becomes a lawyer for a short time, using the legal knowledge he gained in prison. It is a strange twist. The man who spent years running from the law now works inside the law. He still has a sharp mind. He can argue, read, and write well. There is a chance, real chance, for a new life. But the old Hardin is not fully gone. He drinks. He gambles. He gets pulled into new conflicts, including a messy dispute over a woman and her husband. The storm inside him was never truly healed, only covered in 1895 in El Paso, Texas. Hardin walks into a saloon. He does not know it yet, but this is one of his last nights. He has been insulting and threatening a local law officer named John Selman, an older gunman with his own bloody past. Selman does not forget. Later, as Hardin stands at a bar, playing dice, Selman walks quietly into the saloon. Hardin has his back turned. He does not see the gun being drawn. Selman fires. Hardin is shot in the head and falls to the floor, dead on the spot. The man who spent a lifetime facing others with a gun in his hand dies without a chance to draw. Just like many gunfighters before him, his end is sudden from the side. In a public place, John Wesley Hardin leaves behind a storm of stories. Some see him as a monster, others as a product of a brutal time. He himself tries to paint his life as one long act of self-defense. But when we look closer, we see something deeper. A smart boy raised with faith, who chose anger over peace. A man who could have been a teacher or lawyer from the start, but let his pride and temper lead him instead. Someone who blamed the world for its violence, while adding more violence to it. The emotional truth is this: Hardin could have been more. His mind was strong, his skills were real, but he never learned to control the rage inside him. So instead of building something, he spent his life breaking things, lives, families, and finally, his own future. Imagine a typewriter became the dangerous gunfighter from everyone feared. The man at the bar does not look like a usual gunfighter. He is calm. He laughs sometimes. He has kind eyes, but a strong jaw. Someone whispers, "That's Bat Masterson. He used to tame the wildest towns with a gun." But Bat's story is different from many others, because while most gunfighters died young in the dust, Bat Masterson did something rare. In the Wild West, he changed. This is his true story. Bartholomew Bat Masterson is born in 1853 in Canada. To a big family, they move a lot, traveling across the American frontier. The land is wide. Life is hard. Bat and his brothers learn to ride, hunt, and work from a young age. There are no soft days. They cut wood, fix wagons, and face storms. The open prairie becomes their school. As a teenager, Bat leaves home to find his own way. He goes west, where there is money to be made and danger at every turn. Bat becomes a buffalo hunter on the Great Plains. Day after day, he rides out with other hunters. They shoot the massive animals from long range, skin them, and sell the hides. It is bloody work. The open land is full of dust, smoke, and carcasses. But Bat learns how to use a rifle well. He learns patience, steady aim, and how to survive in lonely places. The buffalo hunting life is rough, but it builds his skills. He can handle a gun. He can read the land. He can keep calm when others panic. These skills will follow him into a new job, a job with a badge. One day, a fight changes his life. In 1874, near a place called Adobe Walls, or in later fights on the plains, Bat gets into a gun battle while defending a woman in a dispute. Different stories mix over time, but this much is clear. A shooting happens. Bat is hit in the hip and the bullet wounds his leg badly. He does not die, but he will walk with a cane for the rest of his life. The cane becomes part of his future image. You could see him later, a calm man in a suit, leaning on a cane, a reminder that the West had already tried to kill him once. In the mid-1870s, Bat arrives in Dodge City, Kansas. Dodge City is wild. It is a cattle town overflowing with cowboys, gamblers, saloons, and trouble. Gunshots echo at night. Bodies sometimes lie in the street. Whiskey and anger flow together. Bat first works as a saloon gambler, and sometimes as a helper in law matters. But soon, he is elected sheriff of Ford County, which includes Dodge City. Now, he wears a badge. With that badge, Bat must face down drunk cowboys, angry ranchers, and real killers. He cannot be weak, but he also cannot be too quick to kill. Bat's style as a lawman is simple. He stands his ground. He speaks firm, not loud. He uses his gun when he must, but not as a first choice. He becomes known as a man who can handle trouble without losing control. Bat is not alone in Dodge City. His brothers, Ed and Jim Masterson, are also involved in law work. Ed becomes a town marshal. He is brave and strong like Bat. One night, a gunfight breaks out in front of a saloon. Ed tries to disarm a drunk man and is shot. Bat hears the gunfire. He rushes to help, gun in hand. Shots are traded. The attackers are hit, but it is too late for Ed. He dies from his wounds. For Bat, this is a deep cut. His brother, another lawman trying to keep order in a crazy town, is gone. The job of cleaning up the West is no longer just about duty. It is personal. Stories about Bat Masterson begin to spread. Some call him a tough sheriff who keeps Dodge City from turning into pure madness. Others call him a gunfighter who is not afraid to fight back. He works with or around other famous names, like Wyatt Earp together. They become part of the group later known as the Dodge City Peace Commission, in popular legend Hard Men, who kept even harder men in line. Bat is in several gunfights during these years, but something about him is different from some other gunmen. He does not seem to enjoy killing. He does not brag about his body count. He wants control, not chaos. By the 1880s, the Old West is starting to change. The railroads spread, towns grow. The wild part of the Wild West begins to cool. Bat feels the shift. He works sometimes as a deputy, sometimes as a gambler, sometimes as a promoter for boxing matches. He travels to places like Denver and other growing cities. He still carries his cane. He still carries memories of Dodge City. But slowly, something powerful happens. Bat Masterson begins to put the gun aside and focus on a new identity. In his later life, Bat does something almost no one would expect from a former frontier sheriff. He moves to New York City, far from cattle trails and dusty streets. He now lives among crowds, city lights, and busy newspapers. Bat becomes a sports writer, especially known for covering boxing. He writes columns. He comments on fights. He gives his opinions in print. The same steady mind that once judged dangerous men in the street now judges boxers in the ring. He also writes about the Old West, sometimes telling stories about his life and the people he knew, because he was really there. Writers and readers are interested in his memories. Bat becomes a kind of bridge between two worlds, the wild frontier of guns and saloons, the modern world of newspapers, offices, and organized sports. He is living proof that a man does not have to die in the dust to be a legend of the West. On October 25, 1921, Bat Masterson sits at his desk in New York. Working as usual, he is writing at his typewriter, finishing another article. His cane is nearby. His days of gunfights are far behind him. He suffers a heart attack and dies at his desk. Quietly, no gunfire, no ambush, no dramatic duel in the street. A man who once walked through the wildest towns in America dies in a city office, still doing his job. There is something deeply moving about that. He escaped the fate of many gunfighters by doing something they never did. He changed his life before it was too late. Bat Masterson's story is more than just shootouts and sheriff badges. He was a buffalo hunter, a wounded fighter, a sheriff in one of the roughest towns, a brother who watched family die in the line of duty. A man who chose to step away from the gun before it took everything from him. The emotional truth is simple, but powerful. Bat shows that even in a violent world, a man can decide, I don't want to die this way. He chose words over bullets. He chose a pen over a pistol. He chose to grow older instead of burning out young. And that might be the bravest choice of all. Now we explore the true story of a hired killer of Wild West. The man in the black suit sits quiet in the corner of the church. He sings the hymns. He bows his head when the preacher prays. He looks like any other polite, calm believer, but when people whisper his name, their hands shake a little. Jim Miller. Some call him Deacon Jim. Others call him Killer Miller, because outside the church, this polite man is believed to be one of the coldest hired killers in the West. This is his true story. James Brown Miller is born in 1860 in Arkansas and grows up mostly in Texas. His childhood is full of loss and trouble. His parents die when he is still young. The frontier is rough, and he has to grow up fast. Some stories say he may have killed a family member as a boy during an argument, but the truth is cloudy and mixed with rumor. What is clear is this: from early on, death walks close to Jim Miller. He learns that life is cheap on the frontier. Disputes are settled with guns. The line between right and wrong is blurred by anger and money. As an adult, Miller builds a strange image. He dresses neatly, often in black clothes. He goes to church regularly. He does not drink or curse much in public. He acts calm, polite, even gentle. People call him Deacon Jim because he seems so mild and religious. But this is only one side of him. The other side is whispered in back rooms and across lonely ranches. He is a gunman. He is dangerous, and if someone pays enough, he might kill on command. Miller learns to use this double image. To strangers, he looks harmless. To those who know his reputation, he is pure fear in a black coat. Jim Miller is not a wild, hot-headed gunfighter who shouts in saloons. He is careful and cold. He wears a heavy coat under his clothes, sometimes lined with steel or thick material to protect his body from bullets. This makes him harder to kill in a close fight. He plans his moves. He studies his targets. He prefers to attack from cover or surprise, not in a fair duel. If you picture two men face to face at high noon, that is not Jim Miller's style. He is the man waiting behind a fence, behind a rock, behind a barn, his rifle aimed, his heart steady. Over the years, Miller is believed to take jobs as a paid killer in Texas and Oklahoma. Ranchers and feuds, enemies and family disputes, men who want a rival gone. They do not want to get their own hands dirty, so they look for someone who can make a problem disappear. They find Jim Miller. The exact number of men he kills is not known. Rumors say he boasts of killing many, maybe dozens, but hard proof is rare. The trouble is, people keep dying in ambushes and suspicious shootings, and Miller's name keeps floating around. Witnesses are scared. Some who might talk stay silent. Others end up dead themselves. It is like a dark cloud around him. You cannot always see the lightning, but you feel the storm. One of the most famous stories linked to Miller is the killing of Pat Garrett, the lawman who once shot Billy the Kid. In 1908. Pat Garrett is shot and killed by the roadside in New Mexico. The official story blames a land dispute and another man, but over time, rumors arise that Jim Miller may have been hired to do the job. No solid proof ever fully ties Miller to Garrett's death, but the fact that people believe it shows how feared Miller has become. When someone important is shot from ambush, people ask, was that killer Miller? His name has become a legend of fear. The act that finally brings Miller down happens in Oklahoma. A well-liked former U.S. Deputy Marshal named Allen Gus Bobbitt is blown apart by a shotgun blast while riding in his wagon near his home. The community is shocked. Bobbitt has enemies, but he is not a monster. He is a family man, a lawman, someone people trust. An investigation begins. Soon, suspicion falls on several men, and on Jim Miller. Witnesses and informers say Miller was hired to kill Bobbitt. The story goes that he waited by the road with a shotgun, hiding, and fired when Bobbitt passed. Miller is arrested, along with a few others. This time, the community is angry. Very angry. They are tired of hired killers. Tired of good men being cut down. Tired of the law failing when fear keeps people quiet. Miller is locked up in Ada, Oklahoma, in 1909, waiting for the courts to do their work. But the people of Ada do not want to wait. They do not trust the system to bring justice. They fear that Miller's money, friends, or legal tricks will free him. So one night, a mob of masked men breaks into the jail. They drag Miller and 3 other accused men out into the cold dark. They take them to a barn. There is no judge, no jury, no official trial, just ropes. Even at the end, Jim Miller is strangely calm. The men tie noose ropes around his neck. They throw the other ends over a beam. The other prisoners scream, plead, or struggle. Miller does not. He asks for his black hat. He puts it on. Stories say that as they prepare to hang him, he gives a small smile and says, "Let her rip. No fear. No begging. No apology." Then, the men pull the ropes. Jim Killer Miller is lifted into the air. His body swings, and the mob leaves him hanging. The polite man in black, the church-going deacon, ends his life at the end of a rope, surrounded not by judges, but by people who have decided the law has failed them. Who was Jim Miller really? A quiet, church-going man, a husband and member of his community, a careful, skilled gunman, also a suspected assassin, a man believed to kill, not for survival or justice, but for money, someone who turned murder into a business model. Unlike many gunfighters who got angry and shot in the heat of the moment, Miller was different. He was cold. He planned. He was patient. The emotional truth is chilling. He shows us the darkest face of the Wild West, not the loud outlaw, not the hot-tempered cowboy, but the quiet man who smiles politely in church on Sunday and is paid to take a life on Monday. The last deadly gunfighter of our series is the killer, gambler, and the most violent legend of the Wild West. The piano plays soft inside the Texas saloon. Men laugh, cards shuffle, whiskey pours. Then the door opens, and a tall, confident man in a fine coat steps inside. He smiles, but his eyes say something else. Danger, control, readiness. This is Ben Thompson, the last name in our series of the top 10 deadliest gunfighters of the Wild West. A gambler, a marshal, a killer, a man who lived by charm and died by reputation. Ben Thompson is born in 1843 in England, but his family soon moves to Austin, Texas. The frontier is wild, and Ben grows up fast, learning to fight, ride, and shoot before most boys his age are trusted with a horse. He is smart and bold, but also restless. He likes risk, he likes excitement, and above all, he likes winning. By his teenage years, he already has a reputation for bravery and trouble. When the Civil War begins, Ben joins the Confederate Army. He fights hard, learns discipline, and gets used to the sound of gunfire. But when the war ends, he returns to a world that is just as violent as the battlefield. Texas is full of angry men with guns and no peace. Ben drifts into a life of gambling and gunfighting. He moves from one frontier town to another, dealing cards, drinking whiskey, and settling arguments with bullets when words fail. He becomes known for his cool nerve under pressure. When others shout and panic, Ben stays calm, deadly calm. Ben Thompson is not a wild outlaw. He dresses neatly, speaks politely, and carries himself with quiet confidence. But when an insult is thrown, when someone cheats him, or when a friend is threatened, his temper is quick, and his hand even quicker. He gets into gunfights across Texas and the frontier. Some are over cards, some over pride, some over women. Each time, Ben walks away alive. His name begins to travel. People say, he's dangerous, but fair. Don't cross him unless you want to die. He is both respected and feared. One of Ben's early famous gunfights happens in New Orleans, where he kills a man named Coe after a heated argument. The authorities arrest him, and he spends time in prison. But even behind bars, he keeps his cool. When released, he promises to go straight, at least for a while. He marries, becomes a father, and even opens a small business in Austin. But the quiet life never fits him for long. Trouble keeps finding him, or maybe he keeps finding trouble. In 1880, Ben Thompson surprises everyone by being elected City Marshal of Austin, Texas. The gambler becomes the law, and the town soon learns. Ben may gamble, drink, and shoot, but when he wears the badge, he does the job. He walks the streets with confidence. He breaks up fights. He faces down drunks and outlaws with steady eyes and a ready gun. The people respect him because he brings results. He is tough but fair. Even criminals admit Ben Thompson is the real deal. But being both a lawman and a gunfighter is a dangerous balance. Enemies start to line up in the shadows. Ben has friends in high places, but his past never lets him go. He still gambles. He still drinks. He still attracts attention wherever he goes. In many towns, just the name Ben Thompson makes men nervous. He does not always start fights, but when a man with his history walks into a room, tension follows. People whisper behind him. Some want to test him. Some want to avenge old scores. And one of those scores waits for him in San Antonio. A few years earlier, Ben had a deadly confrontation in San Antonio at a place called the Vaudeville Theater, also known as the Opera House. During an argument with a theater owner named Jack Harris, shots are fired. Harris is killed. The killing shakes the town. Some say Ben fired in self-defense. Others say it was murder. He is arrested and tried, but acquitted, found not guilty. Still, Harris's friends never forgive or forget. Ben knows this, but he is not the kind of man to hide from enemies. He believes that if he faces people directly, they will respect him. That belief will cost him his life. In 1884, Ben decides to visit San Antonio again. He is now famous part hero, part villain. Some urge him not to go, warning him that Harris's friends still want revenge. But Ben, confident as always, rides into town with his close friend, King Fisher, another well-known gunman. They enter the theater to talk and settle old business. Ben believes it will be a conversation, but the men waiting inside have other plans. Gunfire explodes in the dark. Bullets tear through the air. When the smoke clears, both Ben Thompson and King Fisher are dead. It is not a fair fight. It is an ambush. The law never truly punishes the killers. In the end, Ben dies, just as he lived surrounded by violence and controversy. So who was Ben Thompson, really? A gambler who risked everything: money, pride, and life. A skilled gunfighter who stayed calm when others panicked. A lawman who tried to bring order to chaos. A man who believed respect could protect him, even from revenge. He was brave and loyal, but also proud and stubborn. He wanted to be both loved and feared, and in the Wild West, that balance was impossible to keep. The emotional truth is this: Ben Thompson was not born evil. He was born into a violent world and played by its rules. But in the end, those same rules, guns, pride, and revenge turned against him. The bullets he once commanded finally found him. Ben Thompson's story closes our series with a hard truth. Most gunfighters of the Wild West were not movie heroes. They were real men, full of courage and flaws, shaped by a time when law and survival were the same thing. From Base Reeves to Ben Thompson, every man in this series lived by the gun, and every one of them paid for it in some way, with blood, with grief, or with loneliness. The Wild West built legends, but behind every legend was a real man, tired, human, and trying to survive in a world that demanded violence to earn peace.